The sun burned fiercely over the endless desert, painting the sands in shades of gold and red. The wind howled across the barren land, carrying grains of sand that cut like tiny knives. Amid this harsh world, a young human named Kale walked steadily, his boots sinking slightly with each step. He carried a worn leather backpack and a canteen filled with water, a precious treasure in this dry wasteland. Kale had traveled alone for many days, searching for ancient ruins rumored to hold forgotten knowledge. He was skilled and careful, always watching the horizon for signs of danger. Yet even he could not ignore the faint, desperate sound that reached his ears. A soft, broken voice called out, almost swallowed by the wind, "Please, just a sip." Kale froze, scanning the dunes. His heart quickened as he spotted a small figure struggling in the sand. Its scales shimmered like emeralds, though they were covered in dust and scratches. And the most striking thing was its eyes, wide, pleading, and filled with fear. It was a dragon kid, small but clearly alive, its tiny wings trembling as it tried to move. Kale knelt carefully, keeping his distance at first. He knew that dragons could be dangerous, yet something in the young creature's eyes told him it was weak and in need of help. The dragon kid whispered again, "Please, water, just one sip." Its voice was soft but urgent, and Kale felt a strange connection, a pull he could not ignore without thinking too much. Kale unscrewed the cap of his canteen, lifting it slowly, and held it out toward the dragon. The creature's tongue flicked nervously as it lapped at the water, quenching its thirst quickly. Yet when Kale tried to stop it, the dragon kid shook its tiny head. "No, more, please." Kale hesitated, realizing how desperate and innocent it was. His heart told him to act, so he handed over the entire canteen, letting the cool water flow freely. The dragon kid drank greedily, its body trembling as it grew stronger with each sip. Slowly, it lifted its small head, scales glistening in the sunlight, and looked at Kale with eyes full of gratitude. "Thank you," it said, its voice small but clear. Kale smiled softly, brushing sand from his own arms, feeling an unfamiliar warmth in his chest. He realized that this was more than a chance encounter. Something extraordinary had just begun. Suddenly, Kale sensed movement behind a nearby dune. A shadow shifted, and the hairs on his neck stood up. The desert was rarely empty, and not all who roamed it were friendly. The dragon kid hissed softly, its small claws digging into the sand. "They, coming," it warned, pointing its tiny wing toward the horizon. Kale's heart pounded as he scanned the distance. Shapes moving slowly, deliberately, approaching them. He grabbed a small knife from his belt and stood protectively in front of the dragon kid. "Don't worry, we'll face them together," he said, even though uncertainty gnawed at him. The dragon kid nodded, its trust in Kale clear, and a strange courage sparked in the young human. Together, they began moving toward a rocky outcrop that promised cover. The desert sun burned overhead, the shadows of danger growing longer with each step. Yet Kale felt something deep inside, a certainty that helping this small creature was the right choice. And so, under the blazing sun and shifting sands, a human and a dragon kid began a journey neither of them could have imagined. A bond formed in the harshest of worlds, with the first sip of water marking the start of something truly extraordinary. Kale and the dragon kid crouched behind the jagged rocks, their eyes scanning the shifting sands. The shadows of the approaching figures grew clearer, revealing humanoid shapes with strange armor and glowing weapons. Kale's grip tightened on his knife, but he knew fighting would be dangerous. He whispered to the dragon kid, "Stay close, we have to be smart." The dragon kid nodded, its small body trembling. Yet there was a fire in its eyes that Kale had not seen before. Together, they waited as the hostile figures drew nearer, their footsteps heavy, their intentions clear. But Kale noticed something unexpected. The dragon kid stretched its tiny wings, and a low, soft hum escaped from its throat, a sound that seemed to ripple through the desert. The approaching enemies faltered, glancing around nervously, unsure what they were hearing. Kale realized the dragon kid had powers beyond its size, powers that could help them escape. He decided to take a bold step, stepping out from the rocks slowly, showing that he was not afraid. "We don't want trouble," Kale said, his voice calm but firm. The humanoid figures paused, lowering their glowing weapons slightly, confusion spreading among them. The dragon kid chirped softly, hopping closer to Kale, and with a flick of its tail, it created a small dust whirlwind. The wind whipped across the desert floor, blinding the enemies temporarily. Kale grabbed this moment, taking the Dragon Kid by the claws and guiding it toward a narrow canyon nearby. "Quick, this way," he urged, moving with surprising speed. As they ran, Kale thought about the canteen he had given the Dragon Kid, how he had chosen generosity over fear, and how that single act of kindness had created this unlikely bond. He realized that being human was more than surviving the desert. It was about helping others even when it was risky. They reached the canyon and ducked behind a large boulder, breathing heavily. The Dragon Kid's scales sparkled faintly in the dim light, and it gave Kale a small, grateful nod. "Thank you, human. You saved me," it whispered, its voice barely audible. Kale smiled, ruffling the tiny creature's head. "We saved each other," he said, realizing that their fates were now connected. From behind the boulder, Kale observed the enemies searching, unable to find them in the twisting canyon. The Dragon Kid hovered close, wings fluttering, and whispered, "We must move. They will return." Kale nodded, his mind racing with plans. He knew that the desert was full of dangers, but with this Dragon Kid by his side, he felt a strange courage, a sense that together they could face anything. The Dragon Kid then did something unexpected, blowing a small cloud of shimmering dust into the air. The particles glowed softly and created an illusion, making the canyon walls appear to shift and change. Confused, the enemies stumbled and argued, giving Kale and the Dragon Kid precious minutes to move deeper into the canyon. As they paused, Kale looked at the Dragon Kid and smiled. "I gave you water, but you gave me something too. Hope," he said, feeling a warmth in his heart. The Dragon Kid chirped happily, its eyes sparkling with intelligence and trust. For the first time, Kale understood that acts of generosity could change lives in ways he had never imagined. The desert stretched endlessly beyond them, but for the first time, Kale felt that he was not alone. The Dragon Kid was more than a creature needing help. It was a friend, an ally, a companion for the uncertain journey ahead. Together, they prepared to face whatever came next, their bond stronger than any danger lurking in the sands. And so, the human and the Dragon Kid moved forward, the desert sun casting long shadows behind them. Their journey had only just begun, but the power of kindness and trust had already created something extraordinary. If you like, I can write part 3, A Dangerous Journey, next, keeping the same suspenseful and easy to understand style. So your HFY story continues seamlessly. Do you want me to continue with part 3? Kale and the Dragon Kid slipped deeper into the canyon, the rocky walls providing some shelter from the scorching sun and the prying eyes of their pursuers. Every step was careful, each sound amplified in the narrow passage. The Dragon Kid's small wings fluttered nervously as it glanced around, ready to warn Kale of any sudden movement. The desert behind them seemed endless, and Kale realized that the journey ahead would not be easy. He needed to find water, food, and a safe place to rest. Yet the Dragon Kid's presence made him feel braver, as if the little creature's courage had passed into him. They moved slowly at first, then with more confidence, navigating the rocky paths and hidden trails. Suddenly, a sharp wind swept through the canyon, carrying the scent of something strange. Kale stopped and sniffed the air, his instincts telling him danger was near. The Dragon Kid hissed softly, crouching low. "They close," it warned, pointing its tiny wing toward a narrow cliff path. Kale nodded silently, realizing that the hostile figures were not far behind. As they climbed the cliff, the rocks loose beneath their feet, Kale's heart raced, and he had to focus every muscle to avoid slipping. The Dragon Kid clung to him when needed, its small claws digging into his jacket for support. At the top of the cliff, they found a small ledge with a view of the desert stretching endlessly below. They paused, breathing heavily, their eyes scanning the horizon. Kale noticed the sun beginning to set, painting the sky with deep oranges and purples. It reminded him of why he traveled these harsh lands in the first place, searching for knowledge, seeking adventure, and testing his courage. The Dragon Kid sat beside him, its scales glinting in the fading sunlight, and he realized that this journey had become more than survival. It was about friendship, trust, and courage. But the calm did not last. A sudden sound of movement echoed from the canyon below, rocks tumbling as the enemies approached. Kale's grip on his knife tightened. He whispered, "We need a plan. We can't outrun them forever." The Dragon Kid chirped softly, its small voice determined. "I can help. Follow me," and it flew a few meters ahead, signaling a hidden path among the rocks. Kale followed carefully, amazed by the Dragon Kid's agility and instinct. The hidden path led to a narrow tunnel barely wide enough for them, yet it was enough to put some distance between themselves and the enemies. The air inside was cool and dry, a small relief from the desert heat. They moved silently, listening as the sounds of pursuit faded slowly behind them. Hours passed as they navigated the dark, twisting tunnels, neither speaking much, both alert to any sudden threat. Kale thought about the canteen he had given the Dragon Kid, and how a simple act of kindness had led to this shared adventure. His thoughts wandered to what lay ahead, more dangers, more challenges, and perhaps more discoveries about the Dragon Kid and the desert itself. Eventually, the tunnel opened into a hidden valley, lush with strange plants and a small sparkling water pool. Kale's eyes widened with wonder. He knelt beside the pool, letting the Dragon Kid drink first, watching as it splashed happily. The valley seemed safe, at least for now, a place where they could rest and plan the next part of their journey. As night fell, Kale and the Dragon Kid settled among the plants, stars twinkling above in the clear desert sky. Kale felt a quiet pride and warmth, knowing that they had survived another challenge together. Their bond had grown stronger, and he knew that the dangerous journey ahead would test them further. But with courage, trust, and friendship, they could face whatever came next. And so, under the desert stars and in the hidden valley, a human and a Dragon Kid rested, ready for the challenges of the next day, their hearts bound by trust and the promise of adventure. Kale and the Dragon Kid rested in the hidden valley, the small pool of water reflecting the twinkling stars above. For a brief moment, they felt safe. But Kale knew better than to trust the desert completely. The wind carried a strange sound, faint at first, like the distant hum of machines. The Dragon Kid's ears twitched, and it hissed softly. Coming closer, its eyes glowed in the moonlight, alert and nervous. Kale's hand went to his knife, heart pounding. As the shadows of the valley shifted, tall figures emerged from the darkness, clad in strange metallic armor, glowing eyes scanning the area. Kale swallowed hard, recognizing them immediately as the same humanoid enemies they had evaded before. But now they had arrived in greater numbers. They moved silently but with precision, their weapons humming with energy. Kale knew this was not a simple hunt. They wanted the Dragon Kid for its rare abilities. He whispered, "We have to fight, or escape quickly." The Dragon Kid stretched its wings, small sparks of light flickering along its scales. "We can fight together," it chirped, confidence replacing the fear from before. Kale nodded, feeling courage rise within him. The enemies noticed their movement and charged, glowing weapons raised, ready to strike. Kale ducked behind a rock, throwing a small stone to distract them. While the Dragon Kid leaped into action, a sudden flash of shimmering dust erupted from its claws, blinding several enemies for a moment. Kale charged alongside it, using his knife to fend off the closest threat. The Dragon Kid's tail whipped through the air, knocking down one of the armored figures, sparks flying as metal met scale. Despite their size and inexperience, Kale and the Dragon Kid fought with courage and cleverness, using the rocks and narrow canyon paths to their advantage. They managed to confuse and slow down the enemies. The Dragon Kid created small illusions with its dust, making them appear larger and more powerful than they were. Some enemies hesitated, unsure what they faced. Kale realized that the human spirit and determination could sometimes match the strength of machines and armor. He shouted, "We won't let you take him," as he lunged at an approaching figure, striking just enough to force it back. The Dragon Kid responded, spitting a small burst of sparkling energy, scattering more enemies across the rocky valley. Hours seemed to pass in a blur of movement, strategy, and bravery. Yet gradually the enemies retreated, unsure how to handle the combined skill and courage of Kale and the Dragon Kid. They disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind the quiet of the hidden valley. Kale and the Dragon Kid collapsed, breathing heavily, hearts racing. The Dragon Kid looked at Kale, eyes shining. "You are brave, human." "Thank you," it whispered, still trembling from the battle. Kale smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "No, thank you for helping me too," he said, realizing that together they were stronger than any enemy. As dawn approached, the hidden valley glowed with a soft golden light, the pool of water sparkling like crystal. Kale knew the danger was not over, but he also understood that kindness, trust, and teamwork could overcome even the greatest threats. The bond between the human and the Dragon Kid had deepened through courage and generosity. preparing them for whatever challenges the desert would throw next. And so, as the first rays of sunlight touched the valley, Kale and the Dragon Kid began to plan their next move, ready to face the ultimate challenges ahead, their friendship and courage shining brighter than any threat. If you want, I can now write Part 5, The Ultimate Bond, giving your story a powerful, heartwarming, and inspiring ending ready for voice-over. Do you want me to continue with Part 5? The sun rose over the hidden valley, casting warm golden light on the rocks and the sparkling pool. Kale stretched, feeling the ache in his muscles from the previous battle. The Dragon Kid sat beside him, wings folded neatly, eyes shining with intelligence and trust. Kale knew the desert was still dangerous, yet he felt a strange confidence, as if the journey and their bond had made them stronger together. He filled his canteen with water from the pool, careful not to spill a drop, while the Dragon Kid watched curiously, its small claws tapping the ground in anticipation. Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed across the valley. The enemies had returned, larger in number and more determined than before. Kale's hand tightened around his knife, but he looked at the Dragon Kid and smiled. "We face this together," he said, and the Dragon Kid chirped in agreement. The enemies charged, their glowing weapons cutting through the desert air. Kale and the Dragon Kid moved quickly, using their teamwork to stay one step ahead. The Dragon Kid leaped, creating sparkling illusions that confused the attackers, while Kale used his quick thinking and agility to dodge and guide the creature to safety. A fierce sandstorm began to rise, adding another challenge to their battle. Kale shielded the Dragon Kid with his body as the wind whipped around them. Yet even in the chaos, the Dragon Kid struck with precise bursts of sparkling energy, and Kale found openings to push the enemies back. Hours passed, yet the human and Dragon Kid did not give up, their determination and trust in each other growing stronger with every moment. Finally, the enemies, exhausted and frustrated, retreated into the desert, leaving Kale and the Dragon Kid victorious. Their hearts raced, but there was relief and pride shining in their eyes. Kale knelt beside the Dragon Kid, brushing sand from its shimmering scales. "You were amazing," he said softly. "We make a good team," the Dragon Kid chirped happily, nuzzling Kale's shoulder. "You saved me, human, and I helped you," it said, its voice small but clear. For the first time, Kale realized that true strength was not just in fighting, but in courage, kindness, and trust. The Dragon Kid's life had been saved by generosity, and together, they had overcome a danger far greater than either could face alone. It was a bond formed in the harshest world, yet stronger than any weapon. As they sat together under the clear blue sky, Kale filled the Dragon Kid's small water bowl and watched it drink. Thinking of the journey ahead, he knew that whatever challenges came next, they would face them as partners, friends, and companions. The desert no longer seemed so lonely or dangerous, for they had each other. Kale laughed softly, from one sip of water to saving each other. "Who would have thought?" the Dragon Kid chirped, wings fluttering with happiness. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows behind them, marking the beginning of a new adventure, one filled with hope, courage, and the unbreakable bond between human and dragon. And so, the human and the Dragon Kid left the hidden valley, stepping into the endless desert together, ready for new journeys, new discoveries, and new challenges. Their story, born from kindness and bravery, had become something extraordinary, a tale of friendship, trust, and the ultimate bond. Now you have all 5 parts of your HFY sci-fi story, in third-person style, simple English, and with commas at the end for voiceover use. If you want, I can also combine all 5 parts into a single ready-to-read script for YouTube narration, so you don't have to manage each part separately. Do you want me to do that?